Welcome back to the Reimagined Energy podcast, where we explore the people and projects shaping the future of clean energy. Today, we're talking hydrogen with HTEC, a BC company that's been driving innovation across Canada's hydrogen landscape. From the H2 Gateway program designed to balance supply and demand to a new liquefaction facility in North Vancouver. HTEC is tackling some of the biggest challenges in scaling up hydrogen infrastructure. Here's Mary Fry and Rob Stevenson. Hello, hi, Mary and Rob. Thank you for joining me today.
Very happy to be here.
Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
You're calling in from Vancouver, beautiful British Columbia, and we're here on the East Coast. But I've been hearing a lot about HTEC, or is it HTEC? What is the
that's right.
proper? Yeah,
HTEC,
exactly.
yeah.
So, because you're launching, the H2 Gateway program, and there's a lot to be said about that. But how does it aim to balance, your hydrogen supply along with demand in Western Canada?
Yeah, thanks, Maria. It's great to be here on the show. We're really excited with what we're doing at HTEC. HTEC has a long history in hydrogen production and distribution within the Lower Mainland in BC, primarily though on the light duty side, so fueling passenger cars over the years. We operate a series of 7 light duty stations here in Vancouver. So the H2 Gateway program is kind of an extension of that. It's the next big step towards adoption here. The key characteristic is that we own the value chain. So we take it from production all the way through to adoption. One of the best ways to do that is in the heavy duty transportation sector. So part of H2 Gateway is growing the hydrogen distribution and dispensing network here locally. As well as increasing the adoption amongst fleet operators in the heavy-duty transportation sector. By doing that, we reduce the first mover risk a lot because companies that are interested in adopting the technology for whatever reason they may have, we can get into that later, also understand that we're responsible for providing the gas. So they have that kind of shored up backdrop to adopting new technology vehicles into their fleets. We also locate our production sites very close to our fueling sites, so it helps reduce our transportation costs. And we also leverage a lot of what BC has here in abundance, which is a clean electrical grid and very good government support. So what that does is that helps provide us with some of the lowest cost clean hydrogen available on the market today. Some of the reasons that we do it involve a lot of the GHG emission reduction feelings that we have as a company. It's in our corporate policy, it's in our goals, and that's close to reduce close to 10% of BC's total GHG emissions, which comes from the heavy duty transportation sector, which is kind of a disproportionately large part of the sector as a whole. We're looking to give customers and the government the levers and the data they need to help reduce that. So fuel cell electric trucks, which we'll talk about in a second, help reduce GHGs by about 92% when compared to diesel. So they're an excellent place to start. Yeah. So H2 Gateway is kind of that in a nutshell, from production of the fuel at a higher volume to adoption of the fuel at the end user level.
Well, that's amazing. You have a new facility, that's in North Vancouver, I'm told. And, can you elaborate on the impact, that the hydrogen that is going to be distributed, efficiently? Maybe talk through that process. Yeah.
I can take that one. Thanks, Maria. So the North Vancouver project, our liquefaction project, will be HTEC's biggest project. And we're not actually creating the hydrogen in that one, but we're actually capturing a waste stream, which is hydrogen that's just simply been vented to atmosphere. And in this case, that's been happening for the last 50 years or so. But the facility we're building will capture this hydrogen, it'll purify it, and then it will liquefy it. And currently, when we distribute hydrogen, which we do gaseous hydrogen from our Burnaby facility, this liquid hydrogen will allow us to, it's 800 times more dense. So it will allow us to distribute much more hydrogen, much fewer delivery trips at much lower cost. So our trucks right now that we distribute, this is not a benefit, aren't actually hydrogen fuel cell trucks yet. In the future, they will be. But with fewer deliveries, we benefit from the lower cost, but also there's no GHG emission, or we will eliminate those GHG emissions by having fewer deliveries on the road. So overall, this liquid hydrogen facility will strengthen the resiliency of our supply to our stations. We can distribute much more quickly and at much lower cost. So it'll be exciting when that comes to fruition.
Well, whenever the discussion of hydrogen comes up, there's always the talk of safety and reliability. So how does, your company, ensure, that safety and reliability are met, those? And then also I know that you've been recognized, for your efforts in safety. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that's our cornerstone here. Obviously, we have been in business for quite a while in the industry. We have an excellent safety record. We do, as part of the full spectrum supply in the value chain that we do take care of here on the Lower Mainland, we do have our own fleet of distribution assets. So we will provide and distribute the fuel to the 7 stations that we run on the light duty side. So it's interesting to note that although we are in the supply side as well as the dispensing side of things, that we do operate vehicles that will be moving hydrogen around the Lower Mainland. We've designed our fleet to be maintained to very rigorous hydrogen safety codes and standards. And we have, as part of that fleet, we have all our own drivers. So we don't farm this out to a third party at this point, which allows us to train our drivers specifically for the task at hand and the intricacies of handling hydrogen fuel at high pressures. So that's a major point as well. We do have a very good track record. We've delivered over 100,000 kilos of hydrogen at over 15,000 fills without any incident. So that is a significant amount of activity at the pumps that has happened safely over the last 20 years. And thank you for mentioning the award and the recognition we received recently. So PMTC, which is the Private Motor Transportation Corporation and group that look after a lot of the private fleets that operate within Canada, awarded our operations group, an award for safety excellence recently, and they recently accepted that award at the annual convention in Niagara Falls. So good to be recognized for treating safety so seriously here at HTEC, and we continue to do so as we grow and expand.
Yeah, congratulations! It's a great achievement.
Thanks.
What are the key challenges that HTEC faces in scaling up your hydrogen infrastructure, and how is your company addressing them?
Maybe I'll take a stab at this one first, Rob, but feel free to jump in. So,
sure.
You know what? We have to balance infrastructure growth with market readiness, so to avoid over and underutilization. So, we have to coordinate across the value chain. We can't sustain station development without having the vehicles that rely on them, but we also can't have an expectation that vehicles will be on the road and then we can build our stations to match. So it's a balancing act, and we have to provide that production, fueling, and vehicle supply so that they grow together. So that's an incredible balancing act that we're trying to manage. And I would also say we have to navigate a very complex permitting and regulatory and financing processes. So hydrogen is new and it's not well understood. And as such, there's a lot of public skepticism and concerns about safety. So we have to overcome these to get our projects authorized and built. So this involves working with the municipalities. We have to have public engagement, education, and we have to work with the authorities, because although they're applying the regulations, hydrogen's a nuance, and we have to show them how it fits and that it is safe. And every municipality is different. So we may make great headway with one, and we feel we understand it and they understand it, and we're working together, and then we start a new municipality, and you're back at the start again, because you have new people to work through on this.
So a lot of relationship building, you would say.
Yeah, as well also with government, because incentives and supportive policies are absolutely critical to hydrogen adoption. Developing these hubs are capital intensive. We need government funding and support, but at the same token, we also need there to be supportive policies so people we can have adoption of people moving over to hydrogen fueled vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from my perspective, that's one of the tricky parts there that Mary mentioned. The adoption of the vehicles in the heavy duty space, at least, is one with traditionally fairly low margins. So adopting something that can potentially increase your total cost of ownership is usually a difficult hurdle to overcome for many fleet operators. So as we'll get into in a minute here with what we do at the vehicle leasing side of things at HTEC, we work hard to reduce that hurdle to the operators and try to get adoption moving a little bit more quickly and seamlessly. But that's one of the big challenges for us is being able to convince fleet operators that this is a good technology to adopt.
How does HTEC's Vehicle Leasing Corporation, I guess it's called VLC for short,
That's
how
right.
do you guys facilitate the adoption, of hydrogen fuel cell electric trucks, among fleet operators?
Yeah, so what we do at the Vehicle Leasing Corp, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of HTEC, is we actually buy heavy-duty Class 8 trucks for leasing to operators that are in the space of transportation. So what we do there is we kind of consider ourselves to be like an early adopter support group for getting heavy-duty fuel cell trucks to the market. My background is in fuel cell vehicle integration and adoption. I understand the hurdles that customers have when it comes to changing from, very well understood both financial and mechanical model, which is diesel trucks, and getting drivers and fleet managers into new technology vehicles. So we actually will coordinate all the training that takes place to get vehicles get drivers behind the vehicles, get the vehicles on the road. That includes vehicle training, it includes fueling training, it includes the maintenance. We're partnered with a heavy-duty truck maintenance facility called Velocity Truck in Abbotsford. They take care of all the preventative and warranty work for these vehicles. So, we're trying to reduce the barrier to entry and reduce the number of questions that fleet operators that are forward thinking that, see some of these rules and regulations coming, reducing that barrier to entry. I mean, the federal government has a goal of 35% for new heavy duty vehicles to all be ZEVs by 2030. So a lot of fleet managers and operators, think in 4 to 5 year cycles in terms of renewing their fleet. Right. And they see this coming. This is something that will have to figure into their plans, and learning about the kind of technology, how to fit it into your routes, how to fit it into your duty cycle. The time's now to do that. Right. And so what we do, we reduce the upfront costs as well to the operators by taking on all the CapEx ourselves. The stations themselves are owned by HTEC. You don't have to do a behind the fence megawatt charging station for a battery electric Class 8 truck. There's no CapEx for the adoption here. What we do is we work very hard to get the total cost of ownership on the fuel down to a level that can be accommodated by fleet operators. And if they have ESG emission reduction target or reduction targets within their ESG mandates, or their customers do, those start to bubble up now. And a lot of customers that we're dealing with are seeing all that coming and working very hard to understand the technology and get it out there. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
We have a number of Class 8 trucks right now, and we're adopting more. The H2 Gateway is kind of the third of 3 projects. The first 2 precursor projects will see 12 trucks on the road within the Lower Mainland here, quickly expanding beyond that in 2026. And those 12 trucks are with very forward-thinking fleet operators that are learning the tech. And we're excited to get them on the road and excited to see them hauling freight around the Lower Mainland.
How do you guys collaborate, with Indigenous communities and stakeholders to ensure inclusive and sustainable hydrogen development, in BC?
So I would say every project is quite different, but our goal is always to develop long-term collaborative relationships that embed inclusivity and shared benefits for hydrogen project development. So as an example, I can talk about our Tsawwassen heavy-duty fueling project, where we developed a fueling station on the Tsawwassen First Nations land. The actual the infrastructure is actually installed at a Chevron station on Tsawwassen land. So our agreement is actually with Parkland, who operate all of the Chevron-based branded stations in BC. But the Tsawwassen First Nation was added as a signatory to that lease agreement to ensure that we embed commitment to follow their nation's planning and requirements for policy and project development into the project. We also engaged with the nation's Economic Development Corporation to understand their how they wanted us to partner with them and to be respectful, and listened to their priorities for job creation and youth engagement. So this led to a number of activities, both specific to the project as well as just involvement with the nation. So as example, we participated in the Tsawwassen First Nation run summer youth employment training program, where we hosted a youth engagement day and an open house. We worked with a Tsawwassen First Nation mentor and artist to incorporate the art of 3 youths into the walls on our station. We attended their 15-year treaty anniversary event. We took part in the Truth and Reconciliation Walk, and we used several, but we also, was more project specific, we used several Tsawwassen First Nations approved contractors on the project, specifically for site security, and we used TFN MACCOM as our civil construction contractor, and this was actually the biggest contract on the project, and that was a very successful relationship, and we will use them again, I'm sure, on other projects. So it's just continuing that collaborative relationship, working both with the project and just with the nation to be supportive of their priorities.
Well, looking ahead, what are HTEC's long-term goals for hydrogen adoption, in Canada, outside of BC, and how does your company plan to achieve them? Let's give everyone a bit of a snapshot of the future here.
Sure. Yeah, I think ultimately the idea behind H2 Gateway is to create a model that can be replicated as a regional transportation hub throughout the rest of Canada and North America. What we're doing here is very leading edge, supplying the entire value chain and ensuring that everything's done in lockstep. And we think that can be replicated elsewhere with the right ingredients behind it, right? So, replicating that in, say the East would probably be, where there's a lot of interest right now on hydrogen in Ontario, for instance, would be a good next step. Once we are established here and we're up and running, the vehicles are running around, fuel is coming from our local supplies, I think that would be a next step. To get there, I would say, we have to tout the benefits of what we do here to others in the heavy duty transportation sector that are looking to reduce their GHG emissions and get more users on board with what we're doing. We also want to provide, actionable data to benefactors at a government level so that they can understand that it works, that the investment that they're making in what we're doing is providing benefits across the line and reducing that 10% GHG emission component of the transportation sector within BC. I think spreading the word and, focusing on the successful parts of the implementation of what used to be a concept in someone's mind and now becomes a reality is the important part here. What we're doing is talked about quite a bit, I think, around North America, but really HTEC is the one that's doing the full spectrum value chain work to make it happen. So,
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I just want to add one comment. Well, we're starting with a small hub here and want to expand that blueprint, successfully establishing that in Metro Vancouver, where we're starting, is so critical because it does, as Rob indicated, provide that blueprint. Because in the end, we cannot do it all. We support others actually getting into this sector to do the same thing, to build hubs elsewhere that can then ultimately connect. But it's going to take others to be part of the development as well.
spreading the word is key. That's right.
It is. And hopefully this podcast will help with that. But thank you, Rob and Mary, for joining me today. And all the best as you fine tune your company there in BC and bring it across Canada. Definitely.
It's great. Thanks very much, Maria. Great
Thanks
to
so
chat.
much, Maria.
That's it for today's conversation with HTEC. I'm your host, Maria McGowan. Thanks for tuning in to the Reimagined Energy podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who's curious about where hydrogen can take us next. Bye for now.